Welcome, everyone, to a public service subcommittee this morning. We'll get right down to business. We have, I think, about 18 bills on notice this morning on our calendar. So, members, do any of you have any personal orders? No. Well, first of all, we gotta get it legal. Everybody's got to know we're here. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll? Would you please take the roll?
Madam Chair, you have 6 members present. You have a quorum.
Thank you. So now, members, do we have any personal orders? Yes, Representative Warner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I have some folks here with electric cooperatives of Tennessee with Duck River Electric from Marshall County. I have Nathaniel Carter and Eileen Wynn. Could you please stand? And members, could you make them feel welcome? Thank you.
Okay, we're going to get on to our regular calendar. And before we do, we have a little house cleaning to do. So we want to tell you that item number 1, which is House Bill 471, has been taken off notice. We also have item number 3, which is House Bill 1067. That also has been taken off notice. Item number 16, which is House Bill 954, has been taken off notice. That brings us to item number 2, which is House Bill 686 by Leader Camper. Oh, there she is. Good morning. Do we have a motion and a second? Do we have a motion and a second? I see we do have amendments. So, Leader Camper, could you please give us your which drafting code is it? We have 2.
Yes, ma'am. It is 5336.
5336. Okay. All those in favor of us putting that 5336 on House Bill 686, please signify by saying aye, and those opposed, no. Aye. Ayes have it, and the amendment goes on the bill. Representative, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. Members, this bill would establish the African American Cultural and Historical Grant Fund for the purpose of supporting capital projects at facilities in this state that highlight the contributions, culture, and history of African Americans. The program will reside in tourism, which was what the amendment did. It moved it from the historical to tourism because of all the things that they're doing with the Civil Rights Trail. So we're putting that, we're moving it to tourism, and they're going to fund it in-house. This bill simply sets up the account. It does not make any appropriations or any money at this time from the state. Last year, the bill made it to finance and we weren't able to get the appropriation. So what we're doing this year is we're not asking for an appropriation. We just want to set it up and then look at private companies to donate to this fund. In Jonesboro, students can go to the McKinney Center to take classes for the Mary B. Martin Program of the Arts. What is now a place that brings the community together and was once Booker T. Washington's elementary school. The African American school in Jonesboro and surrounding counties during segregation time. It was, you okay? I heard a fall, I thought. It was able to serve and take on a new use. There are hundreds of places like this in our state that not as fortunate as this one great institution in Jonesboro. Last year, and I know he had to go to another committee, but Chairman Eldridge talked about a building in his historical building in his community that a fund like this would help to restore. And there are hundreds of these places across our state. In talking with tourism and the emphasis behind attracting people to come to our state to visit some of these cultural landmarks like Highlander and Civil Rights Museum and places like that, it will be a tremendous boom to our state from a tourism perspective. We want to use these grants to preserve and highlight the significant contributions that have been made to help make this state a great state today, and also provide additional educational benefits that could bring citizens to our state and help boost tourism. So with that, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, and members, I appreciate a favorable vote.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, do we have any questions for Leader Campbell? Seeing none, are we ready to vote? All in the favor of moving this bill to the full committee? Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote? All those in favor of moving this legislation to a full committee, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those opposed, no. So the board is opened. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Clerk, please take the vote.
Madam Chair, you have 6 ayes.
The ayes have it, and your bill moves on to full committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee.
I have to leave to present a bill in another committee, and I'm going to turn the gavel over to Chairman Eldridge.
All right. Members and ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take up item number 4, House Bill 885 by Chairman Todd. We have a motion and a second. I see you do have an amendment. Could you give us that drafting code, Chairman?
Yes, that drafting code is 5268.
5268. If you'd like, we can go ahead and add that on to the bill.
Yes, please.
We have a motion and a second to add 5268 to House Bill 885. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. You're on your bill as amended.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the committee's indulgence to get that added on. As amended, the amendment makes the bill. As amended, this open meetings tweak only applies to entities covered under the existing Open Meetings Act, like city and county legislative bodies, state boards and commissions. This includes entities like school boards, planning and zoning commissions, public utility boards, industrial development boards, housing boards, airport authorities, and election commissions. And it requires them to have an agenda posted at least 48 hours before the meeting, which is current practice and right now. Also, if they have a website, put that agenda on the website, just making it easier for the public to follow and see exactly what their business is. And then the agenda must just reasonably describe the matters that they are going to be debating on. So I think a very common sense approach, just to, again, solidify that this applies to this group of entities. There are some entities being added into this, but that's just as I described, those that I described. So I'd be glad to take any questions.
And we do, I believe, have question. Representative McCalman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Chairman Todd, thank you for bringing this bill. Just some concerns that I had on it, just to get some clarification for the record. This would not require child advocacy centers or domestic violence shelters that are 501c3s. That wouldn't require them to publish their meeting, because this could be sensitive material there with regards to what they're discussing their agenda. Would that apply to the CACs and violence shelters?
No, sir, it would not, since they're private entities. This is only for the county legislative bodies, city and county, and then state boards and commissions, as I mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Todd, for bringing this bill.
Any further questions? All right. Representative Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, thank you, Chairman Todd. I think this is a great bill. I think anytime that we can make government more transparent, that builds people's trust. And this is a great bill. And thank you for bringing it again, Chairman Todd. Thank you, Chairman.
Well, I appreciate that, and I have the same sentiment. I mean, the people are who are in charge. When you look at our constitutions, it says the people are in charge, and so we want them to be informed. And I can't imagine an entity wanting to do business without being open to the public if they're a public entity like what we've described here. So this just gives them some more guidelines of how they need to do that. There are some situations where you might have to add something to an agenda. That's common practice now. I don't think it happens that often, but sometimes something comes up. And as long as that entity has a policy and procedure, one of your members expressed that to me, but if they have a policy and procedure that's already adopted, they just follow that and they're good to go with that. That things happen, things come up. So they have to have some wiggle room, but this at least gives them a nice box to work within where everybody knows what the rules are.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? Seeing none, are we ready to vote? Ms. Clerk, I'm sorry. I'm used to having a Mr. Clerk. But Madam Clerk, if you would, please open the voting board. Is anyone wishing to change your vote? Madam Clerk, if you would, announce the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes.
Your bill will move out to full committee. Chairman Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee.
Thank you. Next item up, we have Chairman Faison, House Bill 756. We have a motion and we do have a second, and I see there's no amendments been filed on your bill, sir.
No, sir, it's smooth and clean.
Smooth and clean. All right.
Mr. Chairman, committee, I am so proud to be with y'all. I think this is the first time I've ever been in this committee. It's my maiden voyage. I hope it turns out good for me. So over the last decade or so, maybe more than a decade, we have piecemealed together for our military personnel that also work in the state of Tennessee as a teacher, anybody that's involved in the TCRS, and they have served and have wartime or peacetime. We have allowed some military personnel to be able to buy up to 4 years, additional years for retirement for TCRS. They're able to buy that at a little bit of a discounted price, and it helps their retirement. We have groups from like 1975 to the 80s, and then there's a miss out of the 90s, and there's a group of military personnel that can buy in from the 2000s. So I feel like that's a blatant opposition to the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment, our Constitution says that you should have equal protection under the law. So in simple terms, people in similar circumstances should expect the same treatment under the law. So my bill is simple as if you have served since 1940, you ought to be able to buy into additional from 1 year to 4 years of your TCRS if you served at all. Instead of creating a few can do it here, a few in this year, if you served, period, across the board, you ought to be able to buy up to 4 years. That's what the bill does.
Members, you've heard the explanation. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Madam Clerk, if you would, open the voting board. Anyone wishing to change their vote? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you would, announce the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 4 ayes and 1 present not voting.
Thank you, Committee.
Chairman, heading out to full committee. Next up, we have item number 6, House Bill 1296 by Representative Powell. We have a motion. We have a second. See, there's no amendments been filed on your bill. And so Representative, please explain your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sometimes there are some disadvantages to having long legs and big feet. So hopefully that stumble I had back here when Leader Camper was up there was not on the camera. This bill simply removes the 3% cap that currently exists, the cost of living adjustment for members of the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System. In years, this would allow us in years we have a surplus for those retirees. Oftentimes inflation far exceeds the 3% cost of living adjustment. And so this would simply allow that adjustment to be made. It would also require the Commissioner of the Department of Finance to approve, as well as the General Assembly. So this was brought to me by the state employees. Just wanted to bring awareness to this, the fact that oftentimes the cost of inflation exceeds the COLA.
Members, heard the explanation. Are there any questions? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, if you would, open the voting board. Is there anyone wishing to change their vote? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you would, announce the vote, please.
Mr. Chairman, you have 1 aye, 4 noes, and 1 present not voting.
Representative Powell?
Thank you. Appreciate you letting me be heard. Thank you.
Falls for lack of a vote. Thank you. And at this time, I'm going to hand the gavel back over to Chair Lady Rudder.
Thank you, Chairman Eldridge. Next up, we have item number 7, which is House Bill 840 by Representative Miller. Do I have a motion and a second? I do. Do we have any amendments? We do have an amendment. Could you give us your drafting code?
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. That's 004860.
Okay. All those in favor of Amendment 4860 going on House Bill 840, please vote aye. And those opposed would be no. So please vote aye. Aye. Okay. Okay. And we have no nays. And so the ayes have it, and the amendment goes on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Lady.
Representative, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The original bill basically increases from $1,250 a home office to $2,250. But if this were to pass, then it wouldn't actually go into effect until 2026, November 2026, after the next general election. The reason I added the amendment, because if you're looking at 2 years before it goes into effect, the whole idea of inflation, economic impact on that, pretty much wipes that away. That mean that much. And I was hoping to at least get the committee to advance the bill, full committee, and to Finance, Ways and Means, Budget Sub, for further consideration of it. So that's pretty much it, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that explanation. Does anyone have any questions? Questions been called. We're ready to vote. Clerk, would you please open the vote? Those in favor of moving the bill to full committee, please vote aye, and those opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Clerk, please take the vote.
Madam Chair, you have 3 ayes and 3 noes.
I'm sorry, but your bill fails.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next up is item number 8, which is House Bill 926 by Representative Towns. Is Representative Towns in the room? We certainly will. Next up is item number 9, which is House Bill 925, also by Representative Towns. We'll also roll that one to the Hill. Next up is item number 10, which is House Bill 1254 by Representative Alexandra. Oh, there she is. I didn't see you.
It's hiding.
You have a motion and a second.
Yes, I do.
And you do have an amendment. Could you give us your drafting code?
I believe it should say 3300. No, I'm sorry. It should say 4836.
That's it.
Sorry.
4836.
Sorry.
Okay, all those in favor of putting this amendment on the bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. The ayes have it, and the amendment goes on the bill. So, Representative, you're recognized to explain your bill.
This bill was brought to me by my sheriff. We've been having some issues with people being put on the Brady list that are police officers. And if you don't know what that does, but it can really ruin someone's career for the rest of their life in police force. And so they've been put on the Brady list for things they shouldn't have been put on for. And so they've asked that a bill be drawn so that these police officers can have a right for due process. Everyone gets due process. And so we feel that that is very important. Since this bill has come to light, it has brought an issue up that needs some further consideration. I've worked with the DA conference as well as with other sheriffs and police chiefs. And we're going to come back together for a conference concerning this bill to work out all the details that need to be done. I think everybody is ready to come to the table. And if this bill did that and gets people to the table, then great. That's what we want. So they are willing to work on this immediately following session or even some during session. And then they should have an answer back to me. If they do not, I would like the ability to roll this bill to the first bill of next year, because if we can't come up with an agreement, then we'll run this bill just like it's written. If that is pleasing with the committee.
We do have some questions.
Okay.
Okay. First up is Representative Warner.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative, for bringing the bill. Could you explain to us what the Brady list is?
Yes.
You're recognized.
The Brady list is a misuse of conduct by a police officer. For example, they might not tell the truth, or they might withhold information. And that is very important when a DA is using a police officer's testimony, that they can be trustworthy. But some of the things these police officers are getting put on are not for that. We just need to get to the problem and solve it. And so that's what it does. A Brady list just really makes a police officer no longer credible in court.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, sponsor.
Next, we have Representative McCollum.
Thank you, Chair. Lady, and per the sponsor's request, make a motion to roll this to the first calendar of next year.
Second.
Well, then that's what we'll do. We'll roll it to the first calendar of next year.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee.
And next, we have item number 11, which is House Bill 857 by Representative Leatherwood. We have a motion. We have a second. I see you have an amendment. Could you give us your drafting code?
5536.
Okay. All of those in favor of putting this amendment on House Bill 857, please vote aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and your bill is now amended.
Thank you. And the amendment does make the bill. And this bill simply requires the Office of Open Records Counsel to help facilitate the convening of meetings of the Advisory Committee on Open Government. Thank you. That's it.
Do we have any questions from any of our members? Representative McCalman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move previous question.
Previous question's been called, and without objection, we're ready to vote. Would you open the vote? Madam Clerk? All those in favor of moving the House bill, this bill to full committee, please say aye. And those opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Clerk, please take that vote.
Madam Chair, you have 6 ayes.
The ayes have it, and your bill moves on to full committee.
Thank you.
Next up, we have item number 12, which is House Bill 562 by Representative Fritz. Motion and a second. No amendments. Representative, you're ready to go.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Committee. Thank you. I bring to you House Bill 562. And a couple thoughts about this that actually come up this morning as I explained the bill. I had Stacy Wilson, who is our Director of Tourism for the Roane Alliance, our Chamber of Commerce in Roane County, come and talk about this bill a little bit this morning. I don't know if she's joined us outside, but it's something of great interest to her because she's one of the people who was impacted by this a few years ago. And we believe that all citizens and all lawful occupations are indeed essential. This piece of legislation applies some lessons learned from what happened during the COVID years and the pandemic practices. It reaffirms that all legal work is honorable and serves a purpose in our communities. It reaffirms that each Tennessean has the right to pursue a lawful career of their choosing. It reaffirms the ability to earn a living is a basic civil right. And it reminds us of what Thomas Jefferson said in our Declaration of Independence, that government's first role and responsibility is to secure these rights. During the pandemic, and in the name of public health, state government established a list of essential occupations. Those occupations not designated as essential or designated by default non-essential were not permitted to work unless the nature of the work was such that it could be performed at home. Ms. Wilson that I just mentioned owned a beauty salon at that time. We had folks in the state of Tennessee that were doing honest business that were threatened to be arrested and taken to jail because they wanted to cut folks' hair. We had a barber, happens to be the one that cuts my hair. I don't have a fresh haircut, Madam Chairman, so I don't want to bring any dishonor on Jamie Davis. But he told me soon after this, part of the reason I carried this bill last year, some of y'all saw this last year. It got held up in the Senate last year, so I'll bring it back. He'd never been more afraid that he was going to lose everything he owned. And so when you let that sink in for just a minute, that we have a citizen who's afraid of their government, that is as anti-American as anything we could possibly ever condone. As a matter of fact, our Constitution, I think, calls for that fear and reverence to go in the other direction. We in government are supposed to be afraid of we the people. And so I bring you this bill. It put tremendous hardships on many people. The Sycamore Institute in 2021, July 2021, estimated that after the pandemic, we had 40% fewer small businesses than we did before we went into the pandemic. And so I bring this bill to you that does basically two things. It says that a public official cannot declare a Tennessean non-essential based on their legal occupation. And if they do, that person that's harmed by it can sue them. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd take any questions you have and ask for your favorable vote.
Do we have any questions for our sponsor? And we do. Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Sorry. Sponsor, thank you for bringing this bill. I know I spoke to you about this last night. I was one of those people who was affected. And I told you one of the hardest things I ever had to do was look 50 people in the eyes at 5 o'clock on March 17th, actually. So this time 5 years ago. And tell them to say, hey, y'all go home. We're shutting our doors. So you've got people who have never been able to recover from a atrocity that was shutting down legal occupation. So thank you so much for bringing this bill, and thank you for doing me the honor of being able to co-sponsor this bill with you. I couldn't be more grateful for that, and look forward to very resoundingly pushing that little green button right there. So thank you, sponsor.
Do we have any more questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Clerk, would you please open the vote? All those in favor of this bill moving to full committee, please vote aye. Those opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does anyone want to change their vote? Clerk, please take the vote.
Madam Chair, you have 5 ayes and 1 no.
Your bill moves on to full committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee.
Next up, we have item number 13, which is House Bill 1398 by Representative Pearson. Most certainly. Motion to roll it to the first calendar of next year. We have a motion and a second.
We have a motion already.
Without objection, we will roll this House Bill 1398 to the first calendar of next year. Next up, we have item number 14, which is House Bill 845 by Representative Renaud. We have a motion and a second. Representative, I see that you do have an amendment on your bill. Would you give us that drafting code?
4349.
Thank you. All in favor of putting this amendment 4349 on House Bill 845, please signify by voting aye, and those opposed, aye. The ayes have it, and the amendment is now on the bill. You're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Chair Lady and Committee. I noticed in the last 2 weeks that I've been in this committee, we've heard a lot of bills about public meetings, which I think does speak to the citizens of our state who desire more transparency and greater engagement. This bill is brought to me because we do have a appointed body in my district who has public meetings often in the middle of the day where 30, 40, 50, sometimes more people will show up, but then do not have the opportunity to speak because of the limitations that they have established, appropriately so based on the bill that Representative David passed previously. But the concerns that are raised is that they're taking this time off and then they are not allowed to speak and they don't feel heard. And when our citizens who are attempting to engage in the process and not feeling heard, that creates a lot of frustration and it erodes trust in our government. So HB 845 is a permissive bill that's aimed at strengthening that public trust in our local governments. It does not mandate any action at all, but instead provides local governing bodies with guidance to move forward in accommodating public participation, particularly with large crowds or controversial topics where there may be a lot of people who wish to contribute to the discussion. The two suggestions that I offer as guidance in HB 845 is to first ask local governments or governing bodies to consider special accommodations outside of any established rules whenever the large numbers of people wish to speak. It doesn't say they have to allow a percentage. We're just asking them to consider that in the event this happens, that they might bend the rules and say, make another accommodation for more people to speak. And again, they can accommodate that however they wish to, whether it's less time that more people can speak or whatever they feel is best for their committee or for their body. The second thing it does is to establish a formal written public comment period time where those who can't attend or who may not be able to get a chance to speak, knowing that a large number of people may wish to speak, would be able to have that included in the governing body's rules. And I just feel like these small changes will help the public and it'll help us as government, both at the local and state level, ensure that more voices are heard. So with that, I am available for questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Do we have any questions from our members? Questions been called while we're ready to vote? Clerk, please open the vote. Those in favor of moving this bill to full committee, please vote aye. Those opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Please take the vote. And I do want to vote, so I will vote. What happened? Oh. Close. How do we get out of that? I'm a yes, and I think my board is locked, so there's that.
Madam Chair, you have 5 ayes and 0 noes.
The ayes have it, and your bill moves on to full committee.
Thank you, Chair, Lady, and Committee.
Okay, up next, we have item number 15, which is House Bill 310 by Representative Mayberry. We have a motion and a second. We do. No amendments are filed on this bill. Representative, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Last year, this body voted in or passed a bill by Representative Johnny Garrett, the James Dustin Samples Act, and it provided that if firefighters were diagnosed within 1 year of the firefighter's final date of employment with PTSD by a mental health professional as a result of responding to one or more incidences with at least one of the factors described within the bill, that the injury is presumed to have incurred in the line of duty and is consistent. Okay, sorry. But under the workers' compensation law, unless it is shown by a respondents of the evidence of the PTSD was caused by the non-service connected risk factors of the non-service connected exposure. This bill will expand the act to allow this to be covered by law enforcement and emergency responders as well. This was a constituent bill. I had a state trooper that has actually responded to more fatality crashes in the state than any other state trooper, and he developed PTSD. It took a very long time for him to be able to receive what this bill gave the firefighters right away, and so he asked me to run this to include them. I stand ready to answer questions.
Thank you for that explanation. Do we have any questions? And I think we do. Representative McCollum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sponsor, is this your first bill in this committee?
You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Yes, it is in this committee, yes.
You're recognized.
Sponsor, so the first bill you bring in this committee is just, I mean, I know imitation is the highest form of flattery, but just to build off of Representative Garrett's bill.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Yes, Representative Johnny Garrett is an incredible representative, and I just want to be just like him. So I thought I would.
Okay.
They left the door wide
Representative
open on
McCollum.
it. Well, Mr. Sponsor, and with as much as I love Representative Garrett, you have far too much hair. So, well, good bill. I look forward to supporting it. Thank you.
Okay. So I think we do have a request to testify if anybody feels like that's necessary. Do we want to go do that? The question's been called. So we're going to go ahead and vote on the bill. So clerk, would you please open the vote? Those in favor of moving this bill to a full committee, please vote aye. Those opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Clerk, take the vote.
Madam Chair, you have 6 ayes.
The ayes have it, and your bill is moving on to full committee.
Thank you, Chairwoman and committee.
Next up, we have item number 17, which is House Bill 977 by Representative Burkhart. Do we have a motion? We do, and a second. So you do have an amendment. Can you give us your drafting code? 4486. All those in favor of putting Amendment 4486 on House Bill 977, please vote aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is on your bill. You're recognized to explain your bill.
We currently in TCRS have a bridge bill. And what that does is 25 years of service, 55 years of age for police and fire, and they can go ahead and retire. It gets them to, and they can draw that for 7 years if they choose to leave at 55. This bill simply gives them 7 years to draw their bridge. If they continue to work to 60, they can draw the bridge to 67. If they, the only place that does not apply is if they leave at 62 and it still kicks out at age 67 when full Social Security kicks in. When this bill was originally done, you could draw full Social Security at 62 years old. So we're moving this up to 67. Worked with the treasurer, with the treasurer's office for the last year on this bill. And it's a good bill, and I would appreciate your support, and I'll try to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Do we have any questions for our sponsor? Question's been called, so we're ready to vote. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote? Those in favor of moving this bill to a full committee, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does anyone wish to change their vote? Clerk, please take that vote.
Madam Chair, you have 6 ayes.
The ayes have it, and this bill moves on to full committee. Next up, we have House Bill item number 18, which is House Bill 550 by Representative Cochran. We have a motion and a second. There is no amendment, so you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Chair, Lady, and Committee. House Bill 550, the Fairness and Benefits Act just requires employers participating in the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System, so state government, local governments, to allow private entities to provide information and educational materials about their alternative retirement plans. And the big thing is the supplemental benefits that they offer. So this is happening already. Private entities usually already come into county and local governments. We're just making sure that no state vendor can ever box out these private entities. We just want to make sure that employees always know all of their options, all of their investment opportunities, and that they're not just getting those that are offered by perhaps the state vendor. So again, just making sure that they are always allowed to receive that information. I'll yield to any questions.
You've heard the explanation. Do we have any questions? Question's been called. Madam Clerk, would you please open the vote? Those in favor of moving this bill to full committee, please signify by saying aye. And those opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does anyone want to change their vote? Please take the vote.
Madam Chair, you have 6 ayes.
The ayes have it, and your bill moves on to full committee.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next up is item number 19, which is House Bill 0073 by Chairman Howell. We have a motion and a second. I see you have an amendment, so could you give us your drafting code?
I do, Madam Chair. It is 5976. Amendment makes the bill.
Okay, so all those in favor of, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment goes on the bill.
Thank you.
And now please explain that bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill came to me from my district. The situation involved private property. A private property owner in Polk County who decided to donate 20 acres of his 2,000 acres plus a 30,000 square foot building to the Boys and Girls Club of Polk County. The club had grown. It was a new club. They had a year ago, they had 4 members. Now they're nearing 40, and who knows how many people they will have eventually. But this space will be put to good use. The building was built in the 1940s as a corporate office, but the corporation closed in the 80s. It is set empty on this 2,000 acres since that time, and that property has all transitioned to private hands. So 10 years ago, the owner, realizing the age and the history of that office building, offered it to the State Historic Commission to be placed on the National Registry. The Historic Commission came, looked at it, said, thanks, but no thanks, we have no interest. Several months ago, then, the owner of that property, at the urging of his wife, who is a big supporter of the Boys and Girls Club, said, we need to donate that building to the Boys and Girls Club of Polk County. He did. At the same time, he had in his hand a cash offer of $1 million for that building and the 20 acres. He turned it down, donated it to the Boys and Girls Club of Polk County. They, since that time, have gotten a grant through the county. The local legislative body in the county has helped them with a grant, and they hope to receive enough money to remove the asbestos, the lead paint, make some changes, such as replace the inefficient windows. And while they're in the process of working with the architect, the Tennessee Historic Commission staff shows up and says, wait a minute, you can't do that. They're like, what? It's private property. They said, no, you can't do that because of a grant that you got, and you just can't do that. And if you do that, we're going to deny your grant. This stunned everyone. And when we asked them by what authority they were doing this, they couldn't tell us. When we asked them who their immediate supervisor was so we could call them, they would not tell us. And so what this bill simply says is, if a property has been offered to the THC for registry and the THC has declined that offer, then they have no standing to tell the property owner what to do with that property moving forward. And I urge you to pass it because this is a private property right.
Thank you for that explanation, Chairman Howard.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions? We do. Representative Warner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chairman, for bringing the bill. Sounds like a great bill. Tell your constituent back home, thank you for doing this, for putting something forth so these young folks can, maybe get off the street or whatever, have a place to go. It's a very good idea. It really troubles me that the Historical Commission would do this. So I urge you and maybe myself and some others, maybe we can work together in future sessions to come to hopefully prohibit this type of thing from happening again. But again, thank you for the bill.
You're recognized.
Just let me say that the THC does do good work in their area, but I believe this is out of their area and they should have no standing. So that's why I'm asking for passage. Thank you.
Question's been called. Clerk, would you please open the vote? Those in favor of moving this bill to full committee, please vote aye. And those opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does anyone wish to change their vote? Clerk, would you please take the vote?
Madam Chair, you have 5 ayes and 1 present not voting.
The ayes have it, and your bill moves on to full committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee.
That takes us back to House Bill, item number 8, which is House Bill 826 by Representative Towns. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and there are no amendments filed. So Representative, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Madam Chair, thank you, and members, thank you as well. Members, what this bill seeks to do for us on the House side is simply allow us to mimic what is occurring on the Senate side. How we learn many times is out of town in these conferences and these committees where people across the country many times are doing and passing legislation that is model legislation. So the Senate has an opportunity to go and hear all this that's taking place, and we don't. We have an opportunity of one trip. Mainly, we probably go to NCSL, but you got ALEC, you got CSG, you got all these other conferences that we have to go to that we don't get an opportunity to go to that will allow us to stay current. So I think the Senate, in many ways, they're beyond the members, the House members, because they get a chance to get the knowledge all over the place. And we're not able to do it and be actually not able to do it at this point. Like I think some time ago, they said we could do it. What happened, I can't really tell you. But that's all it does, mirror what the Senate does in terms of being able to make and attend our conferences across the country so we can stay current. That's it, and I'll take any questions that may be there for that.
Do we have any questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. So clerk, please open the vote. Those in favor of moving this bill to full committee, please vote aye. Those opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does anyone wish to change their vote? Clerk, please take the vote.
Madam Chair, you have 1 aye and 4 nays.
I'm sorry, but your bill fails.
Okay, no problem.
Next up, we have item number 9, which is House Bill 925, also by Representative Towns. Do we have a motion and a second? I have a motion and a second. No amendments. Representative, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Okay, thank you again, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, let's see. On the dais, who lives 200 miles away from Nashville? 200. Who lives 300 miles away? Any of y'all live 300 miles away? Well, many members do. Okay, they have to drive a long ways. And sometimes what happens now, your meeting is on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock. You know what that means? You got to come on a Sunday in order to get here on time. And Nashville has certainly become one of the most expensive cities that we have in the country. The hotel rooms are very, very expensive today, plus the tax and the fees. So those members have to drive a long way for an 8 o'clock meeting or 11 o'clock meeting. They're at a disadvantage. Unless, and now the speaker will absolutely allow you to do it, but want to codify, they should make sure that you can still get your hotel room to get here on Sunday if you have to make that 8 o'clock meeting. You'll never make it at 300 miles, 200 miles, you just can't do it. That's unless you come in early. It's very difficult. Even at 100 miles, it's difficult for some of the members. That's the essence of it, you know.
Thank you for that explanation. Do we have any questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, are we ready to vote? Clerk, please open the vote. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye, and those opposed, no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Clerk, please take the vote.
Madam Chair, you have 1 aye and 5 noes.
I'm sorry, but your bill fails.
Madam Chair, members, thank you.
Members, that concludes our business for the day. Do any members have any personal orders? Seeing none, members, the Public Service Subcommittee is closed, subject. Oh, we do have okay. The Public Service Subcommittee is closed, subject to the call of the chair.